My first trip to the deep Philippine province was more than 15 years ago, in early January in 2010, I remember. And I will never forget this this experience. And this is the story of Philippine hospitality, Philippine customs, the province life, and also that experience contributed to my love for the Philippines, which I still have. I've talked about this in other videos, that Filipinas were the first Southeast Asian women I dated. But also, this is one thing, and that happened in Hong Kong actually, but the second thing is then when I actually traveled to the Philippines, and gotten to know the country and the folks there and the people and everything. And I met a girl online in 2009 already, and we chatted, and I decided to visit her at her place in some province, in a real deep province in Mindanao. She lived at the time in Zamboanga, between Dipolog City and Zamboanga City. Dipolog City is in the north, in the western part of Mindanao, and Zamboanga City in the very south. And that's a tricky region actually anyway, because of some political issues which are still going on today. But at the time I was not so much aware of it, and I also really honestly didn't care. So this is the place where I traveled to a small city called Labason, 100 kilometers south of Dipolog City. So I booked my ticket. I arrived at Dipolog Airport. I remember at the time a very small provincial airport. This is sometimes what I miss today, these small airports, because just arriving there, picking up your luggage takes maybe 15 minutes and you're out of the airport. And my girl, her name was Rose, was waiting already for me there and to pick me up. She was 20 years old at the time, very young girl. I was 33. So that was my first real visit to a Philippine province, just a visit. I didn't want to immigrate or not even retire. I mean, I was 33. So that was not on my mind. By the way, if it is on your mind to retire in the Philippines or to move to the Philippines permanently, or to bring your Filipina spouse to the United States, then you should try a Filipino visa. It's a full service immigration service which offers reliable, fast and premium visa assistance with all your visa matters. As I mentioned, they work two ways. So if you want to settle in the Philippines, or you want to bring your fiancé or spouse to the United States, then you can consult with them. They do in-person consultations, document preparation. They help you with travel itineraries, bookings, hotel bookings and other legal matters. So the link is in the description. Click it and see if it is something for you. I need to stop here for a moment because of the water here. I'm wearing sneakers, by the way, so I have to be a little bit careful. It's low tide here, and I think there's too much water here. Cannot. So it looks like I have to turn around, but that's okay. It's very nice both ways anyway, but here I found a spot. I think I can just yeah, okay, back to the story. So I arrived in Labason. My, let's say girlfriend, she, Rose, picked me up. We were driving with a minivan. Yeah, I don't know how many hours, maybe 3 hours down to Labason. And if I would have told some of my friends or acquaintances at the time where I'm heading for, they probably would have said, no, don't go there, are you crazy, it's too dangerous. I was not so much aware of all these issues, as I said. So she told me I could stay at her uncle's house because she was yeah, I don't know, really, I don't remember clearly, but so we arrived at the house of her uncle, a big house. They had 2 cars, so they seemed to be quite wealthy, and I could stay there for free. This is something at the time I didn't think about much, but when I think back in hindsight now, yeah, they let me stay there for free. I even got my own room. I didn't even know these people. Rose must have told them that, yeah, my boyfriend is coming, he's from Germany, and can he stay here for a week or something like that. And her relatives, auntie and uncle, must have agreed to this whole thing. There was no issue. I could say I got my own room even, you know. This is where I stayed. And yeah, it was interesting to see how these folks live, what they do. I remember at one time, in one evening, there was a big Filipino wedding going on. I remember the day before, I helped with the preparation of the food in their backyard. They had a huge backyard. I would say even almost the size of a football field. I don't know. The land belonged to them or not, I don't know. But I remember helping with the preparation of the Filipino food for hundreds of people who would attend the wedding the next day. And yeah, it was interesting to see a Filipino wedding the next evening. You know, it was like hundreds of people attending. I remember even I was introduced to the mayor of this little city. There was a fiesta going on with the roasted pig. I forgot the name. Oh my God, how can I forget the name? It escaped my mind now. It escaped my mind. Lechon. Yeah, the famous lechon. So I was introduced to the mayor also. You know, very little small town. It's more like a village almost. So everybody knows everybody. And I remember when I was walking down the street, the kids who were passing by on the trikes or the jeepneys, you know, they called, "Hey Joe, hey Joe, hey Joe." And I was confused in the beginning because I didn't know what they want. And I told my girlfriend, you know, why do they call me Joe? I'm not Joe, I'm Marcel. Yeah. This is just the way it is. I believe still today you are being called Joe in the deep provinces by some kids, right? G.I. Joe, because the Americans were called G.I. Joe, right? Way back then, in the old days, have to turn around here. But these kids, you know, for them we are just white people. It doesn't matter from Germany, America or Canada, you know. So that was funny. I remember one incident actually where I decided to buy some stuff on the local market, and I had to walk maybe 20 minutes from the house to the house where I stayed to the local market. And I went alone. I remember, and I also remember I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell Rose, I didn't tell her relatives that I'm heading for the market now because I wanted to buy something. So I did go to the market, and on the way to the market I remember when I was walking down the street, a Muslim guy approaching me, so coming in my direction, walking in my direction, long beard, Muslim clothes, so I clearly could recognize that he was a Muslim guy. I also knew that this is Muslim area territory already, and he smiled at me, he greeted me, so he was very friendly, and that was the encounter. I bought my stuff, I went back to the house, and once I was in the process of approaching the house, I could see already in the distance that a bunch of people was waiting in front of the house at the roadside, you know, in front of the gate. And I was wondering who is waiting there. Then I recognized, then I saw it's the whole family, auntie, uncle, Rose, her friend, the other kids, you know, and they're waiting for me. And when they saw me, they kind of were relieved to see me, and they asked me, where have you been, and what are you doing? You cannot just go by yourself here, and this is dangerous. And they were so scared because I didn't tell them that I wanted to go to the market. And that was very, very surprising. You know, they cared so much, but also were afraid. And they told me, I remember, it's dangerous here to walk alone as a foreigner, as a white foreigner. But I told them the story with the Muslim guy. But they just said, you know, next time, you know, please tell us, don't go alone. So now in hindsight, of course, I appreciate their care, you know, and yeah, you should take it seriously, actually, you know. These Filipinos, they live there, they know what's going on, but at the time, you know, I was like, I had other things in my mind. We also visited Rose's house. Again, the house where I stayed was the house of her relatives, pretty wealthy people, actually. So, but her house, her family was living actually maybe 30 minutes away by bike in the middle of the jungle, believe it or not. And one day she said, hey, do you want to meet my parents? I'm gonna introduce you to my parents, to my mom and my dad and my relatives. And I said, yeah, let's go. Where are they? Yeah, we have to take a bike, and then we go for like 20-30 minutes into the jungle. This is what I figured out then while we were on our way, you know. And that was also very interesting. And I'm still grateful today that I could experience something like that. Because some of you might have experienced this, right? Most of you maybe not. And so we arrived basically. There was a small road leading into the jungle. It was a little bit uphill, left, and on the left and right side there were these small sari stores where you could buy some drinks and food and stuff like that. And then we stopped. It was literally in the middle of the jungle, small road, like I said, and then we had to go a little uphill, maybe 100 meters uphill, little path only, and we went up there, and then there was a wooden house. They call it bahay kubo in the Philippines, but it was not really a bahay kubo because it was a wooden house with lots of people, especially small children and kiddies, you know, and a bunch of elderly people sitting there. I met her father, her mom also, and the other people were probably aunties. And you know, the Philippine family is big and a lot of small kids. The house was very simple. I remember just a wooden house, windows, yes, but no glass. Very simple. I've never seen something like this before in my entire life. I was not shocked, but I was impressed, you know. I will never forget this experience. The story I'm sharing now, I never shared to anybody, really. but it is still so vivid in my mind, you know. And yeah, they asked me to sit down and we talked a little bit. Rose was translating. She spoke English very well, and she was translating to her relatives, you know. And then her brother was there, and there was a huge palm tree, I remember. And the brother asked me, hey, do you want a coconut? Do you want to drink the coconut juice? I said, yeah, why not? So the guy, the brother, went up this palm tree like a monkey, like, I don't know, 20 meters high tree. He went up there. I just was amazed. I'd never seen that before. And he cut the coconut and he opened it for me and gave it to me. So lovely, so sweet, you know. I get goosebumps, you know. So hospitable people. They didn't ask me for money. Nothing. They were not begging. The little kids were not coming to me begging, nothing. They were just curious to see me. I sat down, I had a coconut, we chatted a little bit, and maybe stayed 1 hour, and then... But I remember this. I remember the treatment of these people, you know, how they treated me and how they welcomed me. And then after an hour we departed again, went back to her uncle's house, you know. Yeah, that was very, very impressive. We also went to church on Sunday, I remember. First time I've attended a Philippine church service, Catholic church service in the Philippines. Strange experience a little bit. I mean, I know churches obviously from Germany. We have Catholic churches, we have Protestant churches. I was born in the Protestant region in Germany, but I'm very familiar with churches, even with the Catholic churches. You know, there are beautiful churches in Germany and Austria. The Catholic churches are the best in terms of interior design, lots of gold and glass and colors, you know. But in the Philippines, the majority are Catholic, so I remember felt a little bit awkward because, you know, I was not familiar with the ceremony, and then have to stand up and sit down and stand up again and hold your hands in a certain position, and I didn't really have a clue what's going on. Rose always hinted at me what I have to do next, you know, like now we have to stand up, now you have to hold your hands like that, and I could not sing because I couldn't understand Tagalog. In that region they speak Visayan. And then you have to give a donation, right? You don't have to, but anyway, so this whole experience, and the church was packed on Sunday, I remember. I also remember that at the time there was no smartphones. I mean, I didn't have a smartphone at the time because in 2010 there were smartphones. They were out already, but I didn't have one, and the people there certainly did not have a smartphone. But I remember people sitting in the back with their mobile phones, and sometimes the phone was ringing and disrupting or disturbing the mass, you know. So that was, I remember that also. That was kind of a little bit strange. In Germany, this kind of things would have never happened. Our churches are very quiet in Germany. And that's basically it. So that's my memory of this trip to the deepest Philippine, maybe even dangerous province. I know I should not joke about it, but I have to say before I forget, I always and at any time and at any point felt very safe there. Nobody threatened me, not even this Muslim guy who I met on the street. He actually, as a matter of fact, like I said, smiled at me and was friendly and greeted me. Some of you might now maybe say, yeah, he spotted a new victim. He can hold ransom, right? No. But I always felt very safe. The Rose family, or her auntie and uncle's family, took great care of me, made me feel very comfortable. I learned a lot about Philippine customs, how the Philippine family lives. the fact alone that Rose could live, actually at the time she was living at her uncle's place because, and that's a weird thing, she was working for them, you know. Can you imagine? So your own uncle hires you to work for him and pays you your salary. But anyway, this is how it is in the Philippines, you know, money issues and this and that. So she stayed there, she lived there because she worked for her uncle. I don't know what, she did the household. She was a maid basically. She was a maid, exactly. And she lived in a very, very small room together with another girl, Abigail. They shared one little, very small room. It was not really a room, it was more like a, I don't know what. So, but I had this big room upstairs. So I learned about the customs, the hospitality, the friendliness, the province life, how Filipino families are living, you know, how they help each other, how they care for each other. Yeah, maybe also even how to take advantage of each other, I don't know. I think there's always a little truth to that, but I didn't bother at the time. I could stay there for free, you know. I remember one incident at the end when I left, when I departed. I remember speaking to her aunt, Rose's aunt, and I said thank you and goodbye and thank you for everything. And she said to me, I remember, I will never forget, she said, you know, the next time, Marcel, when you come, you should bring a gift. And she said it in a very friendly and non-confrontational way. Yeah. But I got it. I knew what she meant. That's why I still remember this incident. But I didn't know much about Filipino culture at the time. And in Filipino culture and in Asian culture generally, it's like when you travel to some places and return home, you bring a gift. Can be a small chocolate thing, no need to be a big one. You bring a gift. And this is what I learned, and this is what I then executed ever after. Even when I was working as a chef, for example, in Malaysia, and I traveled to other cities, business meetings, when I returned, I always brought some chocolate to my staff. So this is what I remember. But I also not forget that she told me, next time bring a gift. And I understood the message. And I felt embarrassed. Honestly, I felt embarrassed at the time because she was right. But I didn't know better. Anyway, so I think, so that's the story. I don't know what to add. This is all I remember. Great experience, very positive experience. I should also say that, after I left, Rose and me, we lost touch, like it is at so many occasions, you know. And just years later, we got in touch again. I think it was six years later, I remember. And she was not even married, but she had already like 2 kids from 2 different Filipino guys. Yeah, typical story. I won't go into this. Rose was not an educated girl. She was a province girl, simple girl. By the way, very sexy, I have to say. She was pretty and sexy and cute. And I forgot to mention this. I have to tell you this. I was in my room, right? Sleeping in my room. I mentioned this, right? Rose was not allowed to sleep in my bed. I understood why. Filipino customs and traditions. Everybody knew we were a couple basically, but she was not allowed to sleep in my room. But Filipinas, if they want something, they get it. So what did she do? Late at night, when everybody was sleeping, when uncle was sleeping and auntie was sleeping, she just sneaked into my room. I remember this. She sneaked into my bed, and I asked her, so did your auntie allow you to see me? And she said, I don't care. And we had great sex in the room, in my room. next to her auntie's and uncle's bedroom. So, and we did it every night. I don't know if they figured something out, but you know, this is how it goes in a Filipino house. When you visit your Filipina girlfriend, you are invited by the family, but you are not allowed to sleep together with her in one room. But I understood it at the time. I didn't complain. Obviously I respected the house rules and everything. I understood so much at the time that that was no issue for me. But she managed to sneak into my room, and then later she went back. So after we had fun, she went back to a little small shabby place there, you know, in the basement. So that's it. Yeah. Province girl. We'll never forget this. Maybe this were still the good old times. I don't know, because things have changed so rapidly now. Everything is a little bit different. But the last thing I want to say is that Mindanao, I also believe still today, as it was way back then, is a great option also for settling and retiring. I visited several places in Mindanao. Like I said, I was in Dipolog City, Labason, but I also was in Davao and General Santos, Jensan. So I know the eastern and the western part, and Mindanao is a great place. When I worked in Manila as a chef instructor, most of my students came from Mindanao. I cannot tell you how lovely people they were. Unbelievable. I will never forget this. I've done a video about this. I think last year, about working in the Philippines or how to find a job in the Philippines. Long story short, Mindanao, I think, is a great place for settlement and retirement because it's a diverse island. It's big. Yeah, the political issues aside, certain areas you cannot travel, but I think the cost of living is also lower, and it has great things to offer. And you know, for those of you who have retired there already, I don't need to tell you, you are there for a very, very good reason. Yeah, and I will agree, because I have seen the countryside, the province. I met the people. I traveled around Mindanao a bit already, but I also know Manila, Luzon, the Visayas, Cebu and all that stuff. And too many expats just focus on the Visayas, Cebu and Iloilo and Dumaguete and stuff like that. I know that. So Mindanao is maybe, I don't know if it's a secret tip or not. I don't think so, but personally, I would consider Mindanao definitely for retirement, because there you can live also maybe a life under the radar, not so many expats, you can do your thing, you know, lower cost of living, and other pros and cons. So something for you to consider if you wanna retire in the Philippines. So keep Mindanao on your radar, and if you need help with retirement in the Philippines, then click the link in the description, Filipino Visa. These are the guys and girls who will help you and assist you with all your legal matters if you want to make the move. Yeah, and the other way around, if you, let's say, found a beautiful Mindanao girl, woman, which you think you want to bring back to the States, then contact Filipino Visa. They will help you with all the legal matters to get her a spousal visa, a fiancé visa. Okay, with that being said, I'm checking out for today. I hope I can make it back one day, especially Mindanao. There are many things to see for me. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Do you live in Mindanao? Do you like it? Yes, no? What are your experiences with people from Mindanao? Let us know in the comment section. I'm checking out for today. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna see you in one of my next videos. Take care. Bye bye.